I was reheating leftover pizza when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. 7:15 on a Thursday evening, and my wife was texting me from work. Again. The message came with a photo attached. Joyce sitting at her computer, face illuminated by the screen glow, looking stressed and professional. The text read, "Major campaign crisis. Staying late with the team. Don't wait up, honey. Love you, Red Heart. 5th late night this week. But who's counting? Oh wait, I am. I've been counting for exactly 87 days. I zoomed in on the photo she'd sent, and there it was. Right there in the reflection of her computer screen, a man's silhouette standing behind her, hand resting on her shoulder. And unless her team consisted of one person, that was John Pattison. Her boss. Her lover. The man she'd been sleeping with for 6 months while telling me she was working overtime. The office behind them was empty. No team. Just the two of them alone at 7:15 p.m., touching each other while she staged a photo to send to her clueless husband. Except I wasn't clueless anymore. I took a breath, set down my pizza, and typed, "No problem. Tell John the first said hi. Hope you two get that crisis sorted out." Set. I watched the screen. Message delivered. Then read 7:18 p.m. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. My phone exploded with sound, Joyce calling, her name flashing on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. What? Why would you? Her voice was shaking, high-pitched with panic. John's not even here. I mean, why would you even say that? Really? I kept my voice calm, almost amused. Because I can see him in your screen reflection. The photo you just sent me. Nice try, Joyce. Complete silence on her end. Then I heard it, a sharp intake of breath, the sound of someone's world cracking apart. Click. She hung up. I set my phone down and opened the tracking app on my laptop, the one Joyce had asked me to install on her phone 6 months ago after it was stolen. Ironic how that worked out. The little blue dot that represented my wife was moving fast. Her car was already on the highway, driving toward home at what looked like 85 miles per hour. Normally it took her 40 minutes to get home from the office. She was going to make it in 22. My name is Mallin Anderson. I'm 39 years old, a senior financial analyst, and for the past 87 days, I've been living with a woman who thinks I don't know she's destroying our marriage. But tonight that ends. I walked to my home office and pulled out the manila folder I'd been building. The printed tab read, "Divorce Petition, Anderson v. Anderson," in neat black letters. Behind it sat 87 pages of evidence. Every lie, every hotel receipt, every text message I'd recovered, every photograph from the private investigator I'd hired 3 months ago. Everything was ready. The attorney fees were paid. The separate bank account was opened. Half our savings had already been legally moved to protect my assets. I'd spent $12,000 and countless hours preparing for this moment. Joyce wanted to work late with John? Fine. But when she walked through that door, she was going to discover that her husband had been working too. Just on a different kind of project. I heard tires screech in the driveway. 21 minutes. A new record. The front door crashed open. Mallin. Joyce's voice echoed through the house, breathless and desperate. I took one last bite of cold pizza, wiped my hands on a napkin, and walked calmly to the dining room. I set the folder on the table, opened my laptop, and waited. Let the show begin. Please, before we continue, like, share, and subscribe. Joyce burst through the doorway like a hurricane, mascara smudged, hair disheveled from running her hands through it during the drive. She was out of breath, her chest heaving as she took in the scene. Me sitting calmly at the dining table, laptop open, that manila folder beside me like a loaded gun. "You drove here fast," I said, my voice steady. "Crisis must not have been that urgent after all." "Mallin, I can explain." "Explain what exactly?" "How you been sleeping with your boss for 6 months. How you spent our 10th anniversary weekend at the Riverside Inn with him while telling me you were at a marketing summit in Chicago." Her face went from flushed to white in an instant. "How did you?" I turned my laptop screen toward her. The spreadsheet was already open, the one I'd been building meticulously for 87 days. The header read, "Joyce's Lies, Comprehensive Log." 87 rows of data. Each one a knife in my back, now organized into neat columns. Date, claimed activity, actual activity, location data, photo evidence, cost. Row 1, I said, scrolling to the top. February 14th. Valentine's Day. You claimed you were working late and grabbed Subway. Actual activity, dinner with John at Romano's. 5-course meal, expensive wine, dessert. $287 on our credit card. I have the receipt. And photos from the restaurant security camera that my investigator obtained. Joyce grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. Row 43. April 2nd. You told me you were going on a girls' spa weekend with your college friends. Remember? You even sent me that photo of you in a bathrobe with cucumber slices on your eyes. She nodded mutely. Riverside Inn. Room 237. Checked in Friday night, checked out Sunday afternoon. With John Pattison. Charged to our joint credit card as a business accommodation. $1,547. I have the hotel receipt, the room service charges, and photos of you and John in the hotel bar. I scrolled down slowly, letting her see the scope of it. Date after date. Lie after lie. Each one documented with forensic precision. Row 87. Today. Claimed, campaign crisis with the team. Actual, alone in the office with John, staging photos to send your husband while he had his hand on your shoulder. 87 days ago, my best friend Derek, a cop who's known me since college, called me. He'd seen Joyce at a restaurant with a man who wasn't me. They were holding hands across the table. When they left, they kissed in the parking lot. Derek took a photo because that's what cops do. They document everything. I didn't want to believe him. I checked our credit card statement that night just to prove Derek wrong. That's when I found the charge. Romano's Ristorante, $287, February 14th. The same night Joyce had texted me that she was working late and eating Subway at her desk. That's when I hired Marcus Webb, a private investigator who used to be FBI. Cost me $15,000. Best money I ever spent. Joyce reached for her phone with shaking hands. John's not answering, I said, watching my own tracking app. I know because I can see his location too. He's still at the office, probably panicking, trying to figure out if you told me everything or if he's about to have a very uncomfortable conversation with his own wife. She looked up sharply. His wife? I smiled. Oh, you didn't know? Let's talk about that. 85 days ago, I sat in Marcus Webb's office while he slid a folder across his desk toward me. His face was grim, the way it gets when a professional has to deliver bad news they've seen too many times before. You need to see this, he said. I opened it. The first photo punched the air from my lungs. Joyce and a man I'd never met, entering the Marriott downtown at 1:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. Both of them in business attire. Her hand was on his lower back. That's John Pattison, Marcus said. Her boss. VP of Marketing. 41 years old. They've been meeting 2 to 3 times a week for the past 6 months. He spread more photos across the desk like a terrible deck of cards. Joyce and John at restaurants I'd never been to. Getting into his car in parking garages. Weekend trips to wine country that Joyce had told me were work conferences. But Marcus had found something else. Something that changed everything. Your wife isn't Pattison's first affair, he said, pulling out a separate file. She's his fourth. At this company alone. He showed me HR complaints from 3 other women. Sarah Martinez, complaint filed 2 years ago, settled with a $50,000 NDA. Michelle Torres, complaint filed 18 months ago, $75,000 settlement. Amanda Peterson, complaint filed 8 months ago, she refused the settlement and still works there, traumatized. This guy has a pattern, Marcus explained. He targets newly promoted women. Love bombs them, makes them feel special, initiates an affair, then moves on when they get too attached or when it gets too complicated. The company keeps settling because he's a revenue generator. They're more worried about losing him than protecting their employees. I stared at the complaints, feeling sick. Joyce wasn't special. She was a type. A pattern. Conquest number 4 in a systematic predator's game. There's one more thing. Marcus pulled out a marriage certificate. John Pattison is still married. Separated 8 months ago but never filed for divorce. His wife Linda still lives 2 towns over with their 2 kids. She thinks they're working on reconciliation. Now, sitting at my dining table with Joyce falling apart in front of me, I pulled out that same marriage certificate. You told me John was divorced, I said, sliding the document toward her. He lied to you. He's married. Still legally married. His wife Linda has no idea he's been sleeping with you. Or with the 3 women before you. Or the 2 women he's currently seeing in addition to you. Joyce's face went from white to gray. No. He said he was divorced. He told me his marriage ended 2 years ago. He lied, I repeated slowly. The same way you lied to me. Except at least I have the moral high ground of being the actual victim here. She reached for the certificate with trembling hands, reading it over and over as if the words might change. Here's what you need to understand, Joyce. John Pattison is a professional predator. He's been doing this for years. You're not special to him. You're not even unique. You're a formula he's perfected. Identify vulnerable employee, offer career advancement, create emotional dependency, initiate affair, enjoy the power and secrecy, then discard when convenient. I opened another file, the one containing the pattern analysis Marcus had compiled. Sarah lasted 4 months. Michelle lasted 5. Amanda lasted 3 before she tried to report him. You've lasted 6. Congratulations. You're his longest affair at this company. Stop, Joyce whispered. Please stop. Why? Does the truth hurt? Because I've been living with your lies for 6 months, and I didn't get the option to say stop. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. But I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just cold, analytical detachment, the same state I enter when I'm solving complex financial problems at work. This was a problem. And I'd already calculated the solution. I contacted Linda last week, I said casually, watching Joyce's eyes widen. John's actual wife. We had a very interesting conversation. Turns out she's been gathering evidence for her own divorce. She was very grateful for the additional information I provided. The doorbell rang. Joyce's head snapped toward the sound. Who is that? I stood up and walked toward the door. That's Linda. I invited her. I thought you two should meet. Linda Pattison walked into my home like a woman on a mission. She was 39, dressed in a sharp business suit, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. But it was her eyes that caught me, cold, calculating rage that had been building for years and was finally being unleashed. She walked right past me, straight to where Joyce sat frozen at the dining table. So you're the homewrecker, Linda said, her voice like ice. Joyce stammered, I didn't know. Liar. Linda slammed a folder onto the table, papers scattering. He left his iPad synced at home. I've read everything. Every text. Every email. Every disgusting, pathetic message between you two. She pulled out printed text messages, throwing them down one by one. Here's you asking, is your wife suspicious? And here's another. We need to be more careful after that close call at the office party. You absolutely knew he was married. Don't you dare pretend you didn't. Joyce looked at me, then at Linda, then back at the messages. She had no defense because Linda was right. The messages were there, printed in black and white, destroying any claim of ignorance. Linda turned to me. My husband has destroyed 4 families at his company before yours. Yours is number 5. I'm done protecting him. I'm done pretending. I'm done being the understanding wife who looks the other way. She pulled a flash drive from her purse and set it on the table. This contains everything. Every affair he's had. Every HR complaint that was settled quietly. Every NDA payment the company made to keep women silent. I hacked his computer 6 months ago because I knew he'd never stop on his own. She handed it to me. Use it. Destroy him. He took my marriage, my trust, my sense of safety in my own home. He made me question my sanity for years, gaslighting me every time I suspected something. At least you and I can get justice. I took the flash drive, feeling its weight. This wasn't just evidence of Joyce's affair. This was nuclear ammunition against John Pattison. Linda sat down at the table, uninvited, like she belonged there. I married John 12 years ago. I was 27 and stupid. He was charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted. We had 2 beautiful children. Emma's 10 now, Nathan's 8. Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed through. First affair I discovered at year 3. Found texts on his phone. He cried, promised to change, blamed work stress. I forgave him because we had a baby. She looked at Joyce with something between pity and contempt. Second affair at year 5. A colleague called me directly to confess because she felt guilty. John said she was obsessed with him, that she was lying to destroy our family. I believed him. Third affair at year 7. I caught him leaving a hotel. This time we went to counseling. He cried more, promised more, blamed more. I stayed because by then we had 2 kids and I'd invested 7 years. Linda's hands clenched into fists. Year 9 I found suspicious texts again. But this time I didn't confront him. I hired an investigator. Guess what I discovered? She looked between me and Joyce. 4 affairs. Simultaneously. 4 different women, including you, Joyce. All at his company. All believing they were special. All being fed the same lines about his dead marriage, and how he was waiting for the right time to leave. Joyce was sobbing now, her face buried in her hands. I filed for separation 8 months ago, Linda continued. Moved out with the kids. But I didn't file for divorce yet because I was gathering evidence. building a case, making sure that when I finally struck, it would be devastating and complete. She turned to me. Then you contacted me through LinkedIn 3 weeks ago. That message, "I think we should talk about John Pattison," was the best thing that happened to me all year. I remembered that message. I'd spent an hour crafting it, trying to figure out how to tell a stranger that her husband was sleeping with my wife. "We met in person," I said, picking up the story. "Shared evidence. Realized John had played us both. Linda had the professional angle, HR complaints, company settlements, pattern of predatory behavior. I had the personal angle, financial records, timeline of lies, proof of affair." Linda nodded. "We decided to coordinate. I would handle the professional destruction. Mallin would handle the personal. Together, we'd make sure John Pattison never hurt another family again." She pulled out her phone and showed us an email draft. "This is going to John's CEO and HR director first thing Monday morning. It contains testimony from 5 women, the 3 previous victims who've agreed to break their NDAs, Joyce, and 2 others I discovered during my investigation." "They can't break their NDAs," Joyce whispered. "They'll be sued." "They're willing to risk it," Linda said coldly. "Because some things matter more than money. Like stopping a predator. Like protecting the next victim." Joyce's phone buzzed on the table. We all looked at it. Text from John, "We need to talk. Now." She reached for it, but I was faster, grabbing it and reading aloud. "Did you tell your husband? Call me immediately. Don't say anything else until we talk." I looked at Joyce. "He's panicking. Probably trying to figure out damage control. Wondering if you've exposed him." Linda smiled, a terrifying expression devoid of warmth. "By the way, I already sent the emails to his CEO. This afternoon. Before I came here. He'll be called into an emergency HR meeting Monday morning." Joyce's eyes went wide. "You what?" "You heard me. By Monday afternoon, John Pattison will be unemployed. His reputation will be destroyed. And his divorce will cost him everything because these affairs violate our separation agreement." Joyce looked at me desperately. "Mallin, please. We can fix this. I'll end it. I'll do anything." "You should have thought about that before you brought him into our lives," I said quietly. "Before you spent $23,000 of our money on hotel rooms and dinners with him. Before you lied to my face 87 times. Her phone rang. "John calling." "Answer it," I said. "On speaker." Joyce's hand shook as she reached for her phone. She looked at me, then at Linda, then back at the phone ringing insistently in her hand. She pressed answer and speaker simultaneously. "John. What the hell did you do?" He was screaming, his voice distorted through the speaker. Gone was the smooth, charming VP. This was raw panic. "My wife just sent evidence of our affair to my CEO. I got a calendar invite for an emergency HR meeting Monday morning. Did you tell your husband?" Joyce's eyes filled with fresh tears. "He already knew. Mallin's been watching us for months." "You stupid," John caught himself, but the word hung in the air. "Listen to me very carefully. We need to get our story straight. We'll say it was a one-time mistake. That you pursued me. That you were having problems in your marriage and I made an error in judgment. We'll." I reached over and took the phone from Joyce's hand. "Hi, John. This is Mallin. Joyce's husband." Complete silence on the other end. "Wondering how your wife got all that evidence?" I continued, my voice conversational. "I gave it to her. Along with evidence from your previous 3 victims, Sarah, Michelle, and Amanda. They all agreed to break their NDAs because serial predators like you need to be stopped. You can't." John's voice had changed, pitched higher with fear. "I'll sue. This is harassment. You're interfering with my marriage." "Your marriage?" I almost laughed. "The one you've been lying about to my wife for 6 months? The one you told her was already over, while your wife waited for you to come home to your children? That marriage. I'll sue you for slander." "Slander requires false statements. Everything I've shared is documented fact. Hotel receipts. Text messages. Photos. Testimony from 5 different women. But please sue me. I'd love for this to become even more public than it's about to be." I could hear his breathing through the speaker, rapid and shallow. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "Monday morning you're going to sit in that HR meeting and listen to testimony from 5 women describing your pattern of predatory behavior. You're going to be fired. Not asked to resign, fired. For cause. Which means no severance, no recommendation letters, no golden parachute. You can't know that." "I absolutely can. Linda and I met with 2 of the HR investigators last week. Showed them everything. They were very interested in the company's liability for allowing a serial harasser to continue operating unchecked. Something about a hostile work environment and the company's failure to protect employees. Linda took the phone from me. "Hi honey. It's me. Your wife. Remember me? Mother of your children? The woman you've been lying to for 12 years. Linda, baby, please. Don't you dare baby me. I filed for divorce. Full custody, 70% of assets, child support, and alimony. And because you violated our separation agreement by continuing your affairs, I'm going to get all of it. I'll fight you." "With what money? After you're fired? After your legal fees? After you pay back the company for all those fraudulent expense reports you filed to cover your affair costs?" She paused. "Oh yes, we found those too. Hotels expensed as business travel. Dinners with Joyce charged as client entertainment. That's fraud, John. Criminal fraud." I heard something crash on his end, probably his phone hitting a wall or desk. Linda handed the phone back to me. "John? Still there?" Heavy breathing. "Then, what do you want?" "I don't want anything from you. You've already given me everything I need, documented evidence that my wife destroyed our marriage for a man who was using her as conquest number 4. Your downfall is just a bonus." I hung up. Joyce sat at the table, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. Linda stood up, smoothed her skirt and picked up her purse. "My attorney will be in touch about the divorce proceedings," Linda said to me. "I've provided your lawyer with copies of everything. If you need character witnesses, I'm available." "Thank you," I said. "For everything." She looked at Joyce one last time. "You know what the saddest part is? You actually believed him when he said you were special. That's what narcissists do. They make you feel like the exception when you're just the current rule." She walked to the door, then turned back. "By the way, Joyce, you might want to get tested. John's had at least 7 affairs I know of. And I don't think he was careful." The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a period at the end of a sentence. Joyce looked up at me, mascara-streaked face, desperate and broken. "Mallin, please. I know I don't deserve it, but please. Give me a chance to fix this. I'll do anything. I'll quit my job, cut off all contact with John, go to therapy. Whatever you want." I pulled out the divorce papers from the manila folder and slid them across the table. "What I want is a divorce. You'll be served officially on Monday, but I wanted you to see them tonight. I'm citing adultery, misuse of marital funds, and fraud. I'm keeping the house. It's in my name only, bought before we married. You'll repay the $23,000 you spent on the affair at $500 per month. No alimony because of the adultery clause in state law. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore." I closed my laptop. "I've already changed the locks. Your belongings are in a storage unit. Address and key are in the envelope with the divorce papers. I've paid for 3 months. After that, you figure it out. You can't just kick me out. The house is mine. Separate property. My attorney confirmed it's completely legal. You can contest it in court if you want, but you won't win." Joyce stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. "This can't be happening. This can't be real." "It's very real. And it started 87 days ago when you chose to destroy our marriage for a man who was using you as a trophy in his sick game." I stood up. "I'll be staying at a hotel tonight. I suggest you pack what you need and go to your parents' house. The locks will be changed by morning." "My parents?" Her voice broke. "They don't know." "They do now. I called them this afternoon. Your mother cried. Your father asked me if there was any way to save the marriage. I told him I tried for 87 days while his daughter was lying to everyone." I walked toward the bedroom to pack my overnight bag, then stopped and looked back at her. "You texted me a photo tonight. You staged it to look like you were working hard with your team. You wanted me to see you being responsible, professional, dedicated. But you got sloppy. You didn't notice John's reflection in the screen. That one mistake, that's what ended this. Not my investigation. Not the PI. Not Linda. Just your own carelessness." Joyce was staring at her phone at the photo she'd sent, seeing for the first time what I'd seen immediately. 87 days ago you made a choice to start an affair. Tonight I'm making a choice to end a marriage. We both get to live with our decisions now. I left her sitting at the dining table, surrounded by evidence of her betrayal, and went to pack my bag. Tomorrow would be the first day of my new life. And for the first time in 3 months I felt like I could finally breathe. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. I was sitting in my own office when my phone buzzed with a text from Linda. "It's happening. He just walked into the building." I'd given myself the morning off, told my boss I had a personal matter to handle. He'd been understanding. Over the past 3 months, he'd noticed I seemed stressed but respected my privacy enough not to pry. Linda sent updates throughout the morning like she was live tweeting execution. 8:52 a.m. He's in the conference room. HR director, CEO, and legal counsel are already there. 9:15 a.m. They just pulled out the folder. He went pale. 9:47 a.m. Sarah's testimony is on video call. He's trying to interrupt. They told him to be quiet. 10:23 a.m. Michelle's testimony finished. He called her a liar. Legal counsel shut that down fast. 11:04 a.m. Amanda just testified. She's crying. He looks sick. 11:39 a.m. My testimony now. I'm destroying him. 12:17 p.m. It's over. He's fired. Effective immediately. Security is escorting him out. The final text came at 12:33 p.m. with a video attachment. I opened it. Linda had filmed through the conference room window as John Pattison walked out flanked by 2 security guards. He was carrying a cardboard box with his desk belongings, his face ashen, his expensive suit somehow looking cheap in his humiliation. The video showed him walking through the open office floor. Everyone watching. Everyone knowing. 12 years of climbing the corporate ladder, destroyed in one morning. Linda's final text. The CEO is referring the expense fraud to law enforcement. He might face criminal charges. I sat back in my chair, feeling a strange emptiness. This was supposed to feel good. Justice served. The predator stopped. But mostly I just felt tired. My phone rang. Joyce's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. They fired him, she said without preamble. Her voice was hoarse like she'd been crying for days. John just called me. He's blaming me. He said I ruined his life. He ruined his own life. Along with yours, mine, Linda's, and 4 other women's lives. He's just upset he finally faced consequences. They called me too. HR. They're not firing me, but they're strongly encouraging me to resign. They'll give me a severance package if I sign an NDA and leave quietly. Are you going to take it? What choice do I have? Her voice broke. Everyone at the company knows. I can't walk into that office anymore. I can't face the people who testified against John, knowing I was part of his pattern. I can't. She was crying again. I listened to her sob, feeling nothing. I'm taking the severance, she finally said. Signing the papers today. It's not much, 3 months' salary. But it's something. 3 months of salary. That wouldn't last long. Not with the legal fees she'd need for the divorce. Not with the $23,000 she owed me. Not with no job prospects in an industry where everyone would know her as the woman who had an affair with the predatory VP. Good luck with that, I said. Mallin, her voice was desperate now. My parents, they're so disappointed. My mom won't stop crying. My dad can barely look at me. And Emma, my sister, she told me not to call her until I fix what I broke. How am I supposed to fix this? You can't fix it, Joyce. That's the point. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be lived with. I heard her breath hitch. I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to hurt you. You meant every choice you made. Every lie you told. Every hotel room you booked. Every time you looked me in the eye and said, I love you, while planning your next meeting with him. You meant all of it. I was confused. I felt invisible. John made me feel. John made you feel special because that's his system. It's what he does. He finds women who are vulnerable to that kind of manipulation and he exploits it. But that doesn't absolve you of responsibility for your choices. Silence on her end. Where are you staying? I asked, though I wasn't sure why I cared. My parents' house. In my childhood bedroom. I'm 36 years old and I'm sleeping in a twin bed surrounded by my high school yearbooks. She laughed bitterly. Remember my Aunt Margaret? I did. Joyce's aunt who'd had an affair with her boss 20 years ago. It had destroyed her family. Joyce had watched it happen when she was 16, swore she'd never make the same mistake. I'm her now, Joyce continued. I'm the family cautionary tale. The one who threw away a good marriage for a man who didn't care about her. My nieces and nephews will hear stories about me as a warning. You watched your aunt's life fall apart. You knew the ending. And you did it anyway. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't know why. I don't know what was wrong with me. Therapy starts next week. Maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe I won't. Joyce, I need to go. Wait. Just wait. Please. I need to know. Was any of it real? Our marriage. Did you ever really love me? I thought about that question. About the woman I'd married at 28. The one who'd brought me coffee during late-night work sessions. Who'd held my hand at my mother's funeral. Who'd laughed at my terrible jokes and made me feel like I was her whole world. I loved who you were, I said finally. But that person left long before you started sleeping with John. I don't know when exactly. Maybe year 8 when you started comparing our life to everyone else's. Maybe when you stopped engaging with me emotionally and blamed me for being boring. But somewhere along the way the woman I married disappeared, and I spent 2 years trying to get her back before I finally accepted she was gone. I'm still here. No, you're not. The Joyce I married would never have done this. She would have talked to me if she was unhappy. She would have gone to counseling. She would have ended our marriage before starting another relationship. You're not her anymore. You're someone else. Someone I don't know. Someone I don't want to know. I hung up before she could respond. My phone showed 47 LinkedIn notifications. I opened the app and my heart sank. Someone had leaked the story to an industry blog. The headline read, "Marketing Director's Affair with Married VP Costs Company $250,000 in Settlements." The article had my wife's name. John's name. Details about the affairs, the HR complaints, the pattern of predatory behavior. It was everywhere, shared hundreds of times, commented on by people in our industry, dissected and analyzed by strangers who'd never met any of us. Joyce's professional reputation, built over 10 years, was destroyed in the time it took to read a 300-word article. I closed LinkedIn and opened my email. 3 new messages from clients, all saying basically the same thing. Saw the news. We're with you. Let us know if you need anything. My phone rang again. This time it was my sister. I just saw the article, she said. Are you okay? I'm fine. Mallin. I'm actually fine. Better than I've been in months. It's over. The lying, the pretending, the constant anxiety, it's all over. Now I just have to get through the divorce and I can start over. I can't believe Joyce did this. I loved her. We all did. I know. Emma called me, my sister continued. Joyce's sister. She's devastated. She said she doesn't know if she can ever forgive Joyce for what she did to you. That made me sad. Emma was 28, looked up to her older sister, thought Joyce and I had the perfect marriage. Finding out the truth must have shattered something for her. Tell Emma it's not her fault. And that she shouldn't feel obligated to take sides. She already has. She's on your side. Her whole family is. After we hung up, I sat in my office staring at my computer screen, at the LinkedIn article that was making my private pain public knowledge, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 87 days. Relief. It was done. No more secrets. No more pretending. The truth was out there for everyone to see and I didn't have to carry it alone anymore. My phone buzzed. Another text from Linda. Check John's LinkedIn. You're going to enjoy this. I pulled up his profile. The VP title was gone. His profile now read, Seeking New Opportunities. The comments section on his last post, from 3 weeks ago about leadership and integrity, was flooded with people calling him out. This aged like milk. Integrity? You had an affair with 5 employees. How many lives did you destroy for your ego? His professional reputation was as ruined as Joyce's. Maybe more so because his pattern was so much worse. I closed my laptop and drove home, to the house that was now only mine, with new locks that only I had keys to, where I could finally be alone with my thoughts without wondering if my wife was lying to me. It was over. Almost. The next evening Joyce's father called me. Robert Chin was a good man, retired postal worker, steady and decent, the kind of father-in-law who helped you move furniture without being asked and remembered your birthday every year. Mallin? His voice was heavy with emotion. Can you come over? Diane and I need to talk to you. And Joyce is here. I almost said no. What was there left to say? But something in his voice made me agree. I pulled up to the modest house where I'd spent countless Sunday dinners over the past 11 years. The porch light was on, the garden meticulously maintained, Robert's pride and joy. How many times had I helped him plant those roses? Diane opened the door before I could knock. Joyce's mother had always been warm to me, treating me like the son she'd never had. Now her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Thank you for coming, she said, pulling me into a hug that lasted longer than usual. Inside, Joyce sat on the couch where we'd watched football games and celebrated holidays. She looked small, diminished, like she'd aged 10 years and 10 days. Her father sat across from her in his recliner, and Emma, Joyce's younger sister, stood by the fireplace with her arms crossed. Sit down, Mallin, Robert said, gesturing to the chair next to him. I sat. Everyone was looking at Joyce except Emma, who was staring at the floor like she couldn't bear to look at her sister. "We asked you here because Joyce owes you an apology," Diane began, her voice shaking. "A real one. Not the excuses and justifications she's been giving us." Joyce's head snapped up. "Mom? No." Robert's voice was sharp. I'd never heard him use that tone. "You don't get to talk yet. You're going to sit there and listen while we tell Mallin exactly how we feel about what you did." Joyce's mouth closed. Robert turned to me. "Mallin, you've been part of this family for over a decade. You helped me build the deck out back. You taught Diane how to use her smartphone. You paid for Emma's textbooks when she was struggling in college and never asked to be paid back. You're a good man. The best son-in-law we could have asked for." His voice cracked. "And our daughter destroyed that. Threw it away. For what? A few months of excitement with a man who was using her?" "Dad, please," Joyce's voice was pleading. "Do you know what your mother said when Mallin called to tell us?" Robert continued, ignoring Joyce. "She said, 'Not again. Please God, not again. Because we've been through this before. With your Aunt Margaret.'" Joyce flinched at the name. "You watched what that affair did to our family," Diane said, tears streaming down her face. "You were 16. You saw Margaret lose her husband, her children's respect, her place in this family. You heard the fights, saw the pain, witnessed the consequences. And you swore to me, looked me in the eye and swore, that you'd never do what she did." "I didn't mean." "You did." Emma spoke for the first time, her voice cold. "You meant every choice you made. Every lie you told. Every time you looked Mallin in the eye and pretended to be faithful while you were sleeping with your married boss." Joyce started crying. "Emma, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Emma's eyes were blazing now. "Mallin paid for my textbooks. Helped me study for my entrance exams. Was more of a sibling to me than you've been in years. And you betrayed him. For what? For a man who had a rating system for the women he cheated with? You were conquest number 23, Joyce." 23. The room went silent except for Joyce's sobbing. Robert stood up and walked over to me. "Mallin, I want you to know that if you need anything, character witnesses for the divorce, financial help, just someone to talk to, we're here. We're on your side." "Thank you," I managed to say. "We love our daughter," Diane added. "But we raised her to be better than this. We taught her about integrity, honesty, the value of commitment. She threw all of that away and we're ashamed. Not just disappointed, ashamed." Joyce's sobs grew louder. "Joyce has to live with us now," Robert continued. "She has nowhere else to go. No job, no money, no friends who will speak to her. And every day she lives in this house, she'll be reminded of what she lost. Because your photos are still on our walls, Mallin. Our family photos with you in them. Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, you're in all of them. And we're not taking them down." I looked at the wall behind him. There we were, Joyce and me at their 40th anniversary party. Me helping Robert grill at a 4th of July barbecue. Joyce, Emma, their parents, and me at Emma's college graduation. A decade of family moments, now artifacts from a different life. "I should go," I said, standing up. This was too painful, too raw. Diane grabbed my hand. "Will you come to Sunday dinner? Please? I know it's awkward, but you're still family to us. You'll always be family." I looked at Joyce, who was staring at me with desperate, hopeful eyes. "I can't," I said gently. "I appreciate the offer, but I need to move forward. And I can't do that if I'm still coming to family dinners where your daughter lives." Diane nodded, understanding even as fresh tears fell. Emma walked me to the door. In the foyer she hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "You deserve better than this." "So did you," I said. "You deserved a sister who made better choices." As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror at the house full of people I'd loved like family. They'd chosen me over their own daughter. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt sad. 3 months later, I stood outside the courthouse in my best suit, Rebecca Lynn beside me with her leather briefcase full of evidence. The sky was gray, threatening rain, matching my mood perfectly. "Ready?" Rebecca asked. I nodded. After 87 days of investigation, 3 months of legal preparation, and countless hours of therapy trying to process the betrayal, I was ready for this to be over. Joyce arrived with a public defender, a young woman fresh out of law school who looked overwhelmed the moment she saw Rebecca's reputation. Joyce had tried to hire a private attorney but couldn't afford one. The severance money was gone, spent on basic living expenses and the first few payments of the $23,000 she owed me. We filed into the courtroom. Judge Maria Henderson presided, A woman in her 60s known for having zero tolerance for affairs and zero patience for excuses. This is a dissolution of marriage between Mallin Anderson and Joyce Anderson. The judge began reviewing the file. Mr. Anderson is petitioning for divorce on grounds of adultery. Mrs. Anderson is not contesting the grounds. Is that correct? Joyce's attorney stood. Yes, Your Honor. Then let's proceed. Rebecca stood and began methodically presenting the case. The timeline of the affair: 6 months, 87 documented lies, $23,000 in wasted marital funds. Photos, text messages, hotel receipts, testimony from the private investigator. Everything laid out in excruciating detail. Joyce's attorney tried to argue that the marriage had problems before the affair, that Joyce had been driven to it by loneliness and feeling undervalued. Judge Henderson cut her off. Counsel, are you seriously arguing that feeling undervalued justifies a 6-month affair with a married supervisor and spending $23,000 of marital funds on that affair? Your Honor, my client made mistakes, but... Did your client attempt marriage counseling before starting the affair? No, but... Did she communicate her unhappiness to her husband and attempt to work on the marriage? Your Honor, she felt. I asked a yes or no question, counsel. No, Your Honor. The judge turned to Joyce. Mrs. Anderson, did you spend marital funds on your affair? Joyce stood, her voice barely audible. Yes, Your Honor. Did you lie to your husband about your whereabouts on at least 87 documented occasions? Yes. Did you engage in a sexual relationship with your direct supervisor, a married man? Yes. Then I see no reason to prolong this hearing. Judge Henderson reviewed the settlement agreement. Marriage is dissolved effective immediately. Mr. Anderson retains the family home as it is his separate property, purchased before the marriage. Mrs. Anderson will repay the $23,000 in wasted marital funds at a rate of $500 per month. No alimony will be awarded due to adultery clause under state law. Each party is responsible for their own legal fees. The gavel came down. It was over. Joyce walked out of the courtroom ahead of me, her shoulders shaking. I heard her public defender say something comforting, but I couldn't make out the words. Rebecca turned to me. That was one of the cleanest divorce proceedings I've ever handled. Usually there's more fight, more drama. She just gave up. She had nothing left to fight with, I said. No money, no defense, no energy. She knows what she did. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Someone had tipped them off about the case involving the company sex scandal. Joyce covered her face and ran to her father's car. I saw Robert at the wheel, looking older than I remembered. A reporter shoved a microphone toward me. Mr. Anderson, how do you feel about the ruling? Relieved that it's over, I said simply, then walked away. That night I sat in my house, legally and completely mine now, with a glass of whiskey and the divorce decree. I read through it one more time, then filed it away in the cabinet with all the other evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations on your divorce. You deserve better. Sarah M. Sarah Martinez. John Pattison's first victim. The one who'd accepted the $50,000 settlement and tried to move on. She'd broken her NDA to testify against John, and the company had sued her for it. But she'd countersued for emotional distress and won an even larger settlement. I texted back, thank you. How are you doing? Better. Therapy helps. Knowing we stopped him helps more. That was something at least. 5 women had come forward, broken their silence, faced their fear of retaliation. John Pattison was unemployed, unemployable, and facing criminal fraud charges. His divorce from Linda had cost him nearly everything. He'd moved to a different state, trying to outrun his reputation. It didn't work. The internet remembers everything. My phone rang. This time it was a number I recognized. My business partner, calling to congratulate me and ask if I wanted to grab dinner to celebrate the divorce being final. I said yes. Not because I felt like celebrating, but because I needed to start saying yes to life again. For 3 months, I'd been in survival mode. Get through the divorce, protect my assets, make sure justice was served. Now that it was done, I had to figure out what came next. Who was I without Joyce? Without the marriage that had defined my adult life? Without the anger and hurt that had fueled me through the investigation and divorce proceedings? I'd spent 87 days being a detective, then 3 months being a plaintiff. Now I had to figure out how to just be Mallin again. My therapist said it would take time. That healing wasn't linear. That some days would be harder than others, and that was okay. I was starting to believe her. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Joyce at the grocery store. I was in the produce section trying to remember if I needed oranges, when I heard someone say my name. I turned. Joyce stood 3 feet away, holding a basket with generic brand items and discount vegetables. She looked different, thinner, older, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a plain t-shirt. "Hi," she said awkwardly. "Hi." We stood there in uncomfortable silence while other shoppers moved around us. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. You?" Managing." She gestured to her basket. "Working 2 jobs now. Retail during the day, waitressing at night. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Mostly." "I'm sorry to hear that." She laughed bitterly. "Are you? Sorry? I'm sorry that you're struggling. I'm not sorry about the divorce if that's what you're asking." "Fair." She set her basket down on a display of canned tomatoes. "I'm in therapy. 3 times a week. Trying to figure out why I self-destructed so completely. Why I threw away something good for something that was never real." "Have you figured it out?" "Some of it. Insecurity mostly. Fear of being ordinary. A need for external validation because I couldn't find it internally. John made me feel special in a way I hadn't felt in years, and I was too immature to recognize it was manipulation." She looked at me directly. "None of that is an excuse. I made my choices. I hurt you and I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not sorry I got caught, sorry that I did it at all." I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. But all I saw was exhaustion and genuine regret. "I appreciate that," I said. "The apology. It doesn't change anything, but I appreciate it." "I know." She picked up her basket again. "I saw on LinkedIn that you're doing well. New clients, expanded business. Good for you. You deserve success." "Thank you. Are you seeing anyone?" She asked it carefully, like she was afraid of the answer. "I am. Her name is Sarah. We met through work. She's a psychiatrist I consulted for a client project. We've been dating for 3 months." I watched Joyce's face carefully. Pain flickered across it, but she nodded. "I'm happy for you. Really. You deserve to be happy. I hope you find happiness too, Joyce. Real happiness. Not the Instagram version." She smiled sadly. "I'm working on it. One day at a time. Some days are better than others." An announcement came over the store's loudspeaker about a sale on chicken. We both glanced up at the speaker, then back at each other. "I should go," Joyce said. "My shift starts in an hour and I still need to drop these groceries at home." "Take care of yourself." "You too, Mallin." She walked away, disappearing around the corner into the cereal aisle. I stood there for a moment, holding a bag of oranges I didn't remember picking up, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Sadness for what we'd lost. Relief that I'd moved on. Pity for the person she'd become. And underneath it all, a sense of finality. This chance encounter felt like the real ending, not the divorce decree or the court ruling, but this quiet acknowledgement in a grocery store that we were both moving forward, just not together. I finished my shopping and drove home to the house that was now truly mine. Sarah was coming over for dinner. I was making pasta, her favorite. She'd never known the Mallin who was married to Joyce. She only knew the version of me that existed after the betrayal, after the healing, after the hard work of putting myself back together. Sometimes I wondered if that made our relationship easier or harder. Easier because there was no baggage from my past weighing us down. Harder because she'd never know the version of me that existed before I learned that people you love can destroy you. But Sarah was good for me. Patient with my occasional moments of distrust. Understanding when I needed to move slowly. Willing to build something real instead of something exciting. She arrived at 6, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a smile that still made my heart skip a beat. "Good day?" she asked, kissing my cheek. Ran into Joyce at the grocery store. Sarah's expression shifted to concern. "How was that?" "Sad." She apologized. I accepted. We both moved on. "How do you feel?" I thought about it while I stirred the pasta sauce. "Okay, actually. It felt like closure. Like that chapter is really finished now." Sarah wrapped her arms around me from behind. "Good. You deserve to be free of all that." We ate dinner on my back patio, talking about her day at the hospital and my upcoming project with a new client. Normal conversation about normal things. No drama. No lies. No wondering if the person across from me was hiding something. Just peace. Later that night, after Sarah had gone home and I was getting ready for bed, I thought about the man I'd been a year ago. The one who discovered his wife's affair and methodically dismantled his entire life to seek justice. I'd gotten my justice. Joyce had lost everything, Her marriage, her career, her reputation, her family's respect. John had lost even more. The other victims had found some peace. Linda had moved on with her life and her children. Everyone had gotten what they deserved, for better or worse. But somewhere in the process of seeking justice, I'd also found something unexpected. The ability to rebuild. To trust again. To believe that not everyone would betray me. To open my heart to the possibility of love that was real and honest and built on mutual respect. Joyce had taught me what I didn't want in a relationship. Sarah was teaching me what I did. And maybe that was the real ending to this story, not revenge or justice or even closure, but simply the ability to move forward and try again. 1 year after the divorce became final, I stood on a hiking trail overlooking the city, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sarah stood beside me, her hand in mine, completely unaware of what was about to happen. We'd been together for 9 months. 9 months of building something real, something solid. 9 months of learning to trust again, of believing that love didn't have to come with betrayal as a side effect. "It's beautiful up here," Sarah said, squeezing my hand. "It is." I turned to face her, my heart pounding. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." She looked at me with those intelligent, compassionate eyes that had first drawn me to her. "Okay. A year ago I was drowning. My marriage had ended in the worst possible way. I'd spent months gathering evidence, planning revenge, seeking justice. I was angry and hurt and broken in ways I didn't even fully understand." Her expression softened. "Mallin, let me finish." I took both her hands in mine. "Then I met you. And slowly, day by day, you showed me what a real partnership looks like. What it means to be with someone who's honest and kind and emotionally available. Someone who sees me as an equal, not as a means to an end." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the ring I'd been carrying for 2 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. "You helped me believe in love again. Not the fairy tale version or the exciting but destructive version, but the real, everyday version where two people choose each other over and over again. And I want to keep choosing you for the rest of my life." I dropped to one knee. Sarah's eyes went wide, her hands covering her mouth. "Sarah Chin, will you marry me?" She was crying now, nodding before she could speak. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." I slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss while the sunset blazed behind us. When we broke apart, she was laughing and crying at the same time. "I can't believe you just proposed on a hiking trail," she said. "You told me once that you loved hiking because it reminded you that the journey matters as much as the destination." Seemed appropriate. She kissed me again. "It's perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect." We sat on a boulder overlooking the city as the sun dipped below the horizon, talking about wedding plans and the future and all the mundane, wonderful things that couples talk about when they're planning a life together. My phone buzzed with messages. I texted my sister right before proposing, and she was already spreading the news to my family and friends. Congratulations poured in. One message stood out. It was from Linda Pattison. "Saw your post. Congratulations. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Linda." I showed Sarah the message. "That's John's ex-wife, right? The one who helped you with the divorce." "Yeah." We stayed in touch. Check in with each other every few months. "She's doing well. Started her own consulting business, the kids are thriving, she's dating someone new." "It's nice that something good came out of all that pain," Sarah said. "A lot of good came out of it, actually. The 5 women who testified against John all stayed in touch. They formed a support group for workplace harassment victims. Amanda, the one who was most traumatized, she's finishing her master's degree now. Sarah Martinez wrote an article about her experience that helped change company policies across the industry." I looked at Sarah. "My Sarah. And I met you. That's the best thing that came from it." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you ever think about Joyce?" "Sometimes. I saw on LinkedIn that she moved to a different city. Trying to start over where no one knows her story. I hope she finds what she's looking for. I hope she's doing the work to figure out why she made those choices so she doesn't repeat them." "That's very generous of you." "It's not generosity. It's just, I'm not angry anymore. Anger takes energy, and I'd rather spend that energy on building something with you than dwelling on what Joyce destroyed." We stayed on that trail until the stars came out, talking and dreaming and planning. When we finally hiked back down to the parking lot, my phone had 47 notifications, everyone I knew celebrating our engagement. On the drive home, Sarah said something that stuck with me. "You know what I love most about us? We're not trying to fix each other or complete each other. We're 2 whole people who chose to build something together. That's the healthiest foundation for a marriage." She was right. I'd spent 11 years in a marriage where I'd tried to make Joyce happy, tried to be enough, tried to fill some void in her that I didn't even understand existed. And she'd spent those years taking what I offered while looking for something more exciting elsewhere. With Sarah there was no void to fill. No games to play. No wondering if she meant what she said or if there was a hidden agenda. Just two people who liked each other, respected each other, and chose each other every single day. That night, lying in bed with my fiancée beside me, I thought about the text message that had started everything. Tell John the first said hi. 6 words that ended a marriage, destroyed 2 careers, brought down a predator, and ultimately led me here, to a woman who loved me honestly, in a relationship built on truth instead of lies. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing in disguise. It just takes time to see it. 8 months later, I stood at the altar watching Sarah walk down the aisle in a simple white dress, her father beaming beside her. The ceremony was small, 50 people, mostly close friends and family, held in a garden under string lights as the sun set. My best man was Derek, the friend who'd first told me about Joyce's affair. Sarah's maid of honor was her sister, who'd become a good friend to both of us during our engagement. As Sarah reached the altar and took my hands, I looked out at the faces watching us. My family in the front row, smiling through happy tears. Sarah's parents who'd welcomed me into their family with open arms. Colleagues from work. Friends who'd supported me through the divorce. And in the back row I saw them, Linda Pattison and her new boyfriend. Sarah Martinez with her husband. Michelle Torres with her partner. Amanda Peterson alone but smiling. The women who'd helped bring down John Pattison, who'd broken their silence to stop a predator. They'd all come to celebrate with me, to witness the proof that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of the story. The ceremony was short and meaningful. We'd written our own vows, both of us focused on partnership, honesty, and choosing each other daily. When the officiant pronounced us married, Sarah kissed me and whispered, "I choose you. Every day I choose you." "I choose you too," I whispered back. The reception was joyful and loud, full of laughter and dancing and toasts from people who'd watched me go through hell and come out the other side. Derek's toast made everyone cry. He talked about the phone call a year and a half ago when he told me he'd seen Joyce with another man, and how proud he was that I'd handled it with integrity instead of violence. My sister's toast talked about watching me rebuild my life piece by piece, and how Sarah had helped me remember how to smile again. Late in the evening as Sarah and I danced to our song, I saw Linda standing near the bar. I caught her eye and smiled. She raised her glass in a silent toast, to justice, to healing, to moving forward. After the dance, Sarah and I made our rounds thanking guests. When I reached Linda's table, she stood and hugged me. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I wouldn't have missed it. You deserve this happiness, Mallin. After everything you went through, you deserve all of this." "So do you? How are things?" "Good. Really good. Thomas," she gestured to her boyfriend, "is wonderful. The kids love him. My business is thriving. I'm happy. Actually happy, not performing happiness. I'm glad." She looked at Sarah, who was talking to Linda's boyfriend. "She's perfect for you. You can tell she sees you as a partner, not a provider or a status symbol. That's rare." "It is." Linda's expression grew more serious. "Have you heard about John?" I shook my head. I'd stopped keeping tabs on my ex-wife's former lover months ago. He moved across the country, working some low-level sales job under a different name, living in a studio apartment. The criminal fraud charges were dropped for lack of evidence, but his reputation is permanently destroyed. No company will touch him. "Good," I said simply. "And Joyce?" "I haven't heard from her in almost a year. Last I knew she'd moved to Seattle. Trying to start over." Linda nodded. "Some people learn from their mistakes. Some people don't. I hope for her sake that she's doing the work to understand why she made those choices." "Me too." We talked for a few more minutes before I moved on to other guests. The night continued, cake cutting, more dancing, laughter and joy and celebration. As the evening wound down and Sarah and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon, I took one last look around at the party. At all the people who'd stood by me through the darkest period of my life. At the woman I'd married, who represented everything good that had come from that darkness. Joyce had wished I'd disappear from her life. In a way, she'd gotten her wish. I'd disappeared from the man I'd been when we were married, the one who worked too hard trying to make her happy, who ignored the signs that something was wrong, who blamed himself for not being enough. That man was gone. In his place was someone stronger, wiser, more careful about who he let into his heart. Someone who understood that love without honesty is just performance. That excitement without stability is just chaos. That choosing someone should be an active decision, not a passive default. Sarah took my hand. Ready to go? Ready. We walked out under a shower of biodegradable confetti, into a car decorated with just married signs, toward a future that was ours to build together. As we drove away, I looked at my wedding ring, a symbol of choice, of commitment, of love that was real and earned and chosen daily. Joyce had ended our marriage with lies and betrayal. I was starting this marriage with truth and intention. And that made all the difference. 2 years after my wedding to Sarah, I was cooking dinner in our kitchen, the house we'd bought together, a fresh start with no ghosts from my past, when my phone buzzed with a notification. Email from an unknown address. Subject line, I owe you this. I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. But something made me open it. Mallin, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect a response. But my therapist says I need to write this letter, if only for myself. I've been in intensive therapy for 2 years now. Twice a week, working through why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. Why I destroyed our marriage for a man who saw me as conquest number 23. Why I made the same mistakes I watched my aunt make, despite swearing I never would. I've learned some things about myself. None of them are excuses. They're just explanations. I was deeply insecure. I measured my worth by external validation. When you and I settled into the comfortable phase of marriage, I mistook comfort for boredom. I thought the butterfly feeling of new attraction was the same as love. I was wrong. John targeted my insecurity perfectly. He made me feel special, exciting, important. I was so hungry for that feeling that I didn't see it was manipulation. I didn't want to see it. I blamed you for my unhappiness when really I was unhappy with myself. You weren't perfect, no one is, but you were good to me. You tried. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy looking for something else. I've read about what you've built since our divorce. Successful business expansion. Marriage to someone who seems wonderful. A life that looks genuinely happy. I'm glad. You deserved better than what I gave you. I'm in Seattle now, working as a marketing coordinator at a nonprofit. The pay is okay. The work is meaningful. I'm dating someone, slowly, carefully, with full honesty about my past. He knows what I did. He's helping me become better. I'll never stop being sorry for what I did to you. To us. To the life we could have had if I'd been brave enough to work on myself instead of looking for someone else to make me feel whole. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be happy. Joyce. I read the email twice, then set my phone down as Sarah walked into the kitchen. Everything okay? She asked, noticing my expression. Joyce sent me an email. First contact in 2 years. Sarah's eyebrows rose. What did she say? I handed her my phone. She read it silently, then handed it back. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. There's nothing to do. She's working on herself and I'm happy for her. But that chapter of my life is closed. I don't need to respond or engage or offer forgiveness. I just need to let it be what it is, her journey separate from mine. Sarah wrapped her arms around me. That's very mature of you. I learned from the best. I kissed her forehead. Besides, I meant what I said in my vows. I'm not looking backward anymore. Only forward. We finished cooking dinner together, pasta with homemade sauce, a salad from the vegetables Sarah had grown in our garden, wine from a vineyard we'd visited on our anniversary trip. Simple, domestic, peaceful. After dinner, we sat on our back patio watching fireflies while Sarah told me about a patient breakthrough at work and I shared details about a new client project. Normal conversation. Normal life. But there was nothing ordinary about how extraordinary it felt to be with someone who saw me, heard me, chose me, not for what I could provide but for who I was. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Derek. Beer tomorrow? Got some news to share. I texted back. Sounds good. 6 p.m.? Perfect. Life moved forward in small moments like this. Plans with friends. Dinners with my wife. Projects at work. Weekends hiking or reading or doing nothing at all. A life built on honesty and trust and choosing each other every single day. That text message 2 years ago, "Tell John the first said hi," had been the beginning of the end of my old life. But it had also been the beginning of my real life. The one I was living now. Joyce had wanted me to disappear. In a way, she'd gotten her wish. The man she'd been married to, the one who ignored warning signs and blamed himself for her unhappiness and worked himself to exhaustion trying to be enough, he had disappeared. In his place was someone who knew his worth. Who understood that betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed. Who chose carefully and loved intentionally and built his life on a foundation of truth. Sarah came outside with 2 mugs of tea and sat beside me. Penny, for your thoughts? Just thinking about how different my life is from 2 years ago. How much better. Better? She smiled. That's quite a statement from someone who seems pretty happy right now. I'm happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. Not the performance of happiness, the real thing. I took her hand. And it's because of you. Because you showed me what real partnership looks like. We showed each other, she corrected. That's what partnerships do. We sat there as the sun set and the fireflies emerged, talking about nothing and everything, secure in the knowledge that we were building something that would last. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I thought one last time about Joyce's email. About her journey toward healing and self-awareness. About the man she was dating who knew her whole story and chose her anyway. I hoped it worked out for her. I hoped she'd learned what she needed to learn. I hoped she'd become the person she needed to be. But mostly I just hoped she found peace. Because I had found mine. Not in revenge or justice or even in her downfall. But in the quiet, simple joy of building a life with someone who chose me. Honestly, openly, completely. That text message hadn't ended my marriage. My marriage had already been dead. I just finally acknowledged it. The text message had been the beginning of my resurrection. The first step toward becoming who I was always meant to be. And as I climbed into bed beside Sarah, who murmured, "I love you," without opening her eyes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Gratitude. Gratitude for the betrayal that showed me what I didn't want. Gratitude for the pain that taught me what I deserved. Gratitude for the ending that led to this beginning. Joyce had said, "Don't wait up." I'd replied, "Tell John the first said hi." 6 words and 6 more that changed everything. But the real story wasn't about those words. It was about what came after. About choosing to heal instead of staying broken. About opening my heart again despite every reason not to. About believing that love, real love, was still possible. And it was. I was living proof. Tomorrow I'd wake up beside my wife, go to work, have dinner with a friend, come home to a life I'd built intentionally and carefully. Tomorrow I'd keep moving forward. But tonight I was just grateful to be here. To have survived. To have found my way back to myself. That was enough. That was everything.